Hi everyone. Because this was a 3x8 powertrain, I actually have to replace the rear derailleur shifter as well. What I'm going to do, and you can see the cable starting to come out, just pull the cable out. A new cable is soldered here at the end, so you can actually push the cable through the housing. So this is the end of my old cable. If it's not cut nicely and if it's frayed in any way, it's not going to go through the outer shell. I trimmed it one more time with a set of pliers because I don't have a cable cutter really, but they have to cut well. And here we go. I'm pushing it through. What you see here is an SLM591, so it's a slightly older. It's not the recent generation of the Derailleur, it's the previous generation of the Derailleur. Shifter is a 10-speed shifter regardless, so it's gonna work just fine. Okay, this would be the perfect time to verify that I have enough cable up front. In case of the cable being routed on my left hand side the way it is right now, I just want to make sure that by turning the handlebar to the maximum, which would be this 90 degrees I guess, you would still have a nice bend on the cable. Obviously, because of the way it's installed, won't be any issue if the handlebar is turned the other way. When working on the rear derailleur area, and especially like this, when the rear derailleur is removed, it's probably a good idea to check your rear derailleur hanger. These can be bought from a local bike shop, probably about 20 bucks. This one was 16 bucks. What I'm installing for this 1x10 conversion is the Shimano Zee. You can see here it's pretty much an SLX Shadow Plus with a short cage. You can see it's only 5 centimeters sorry, between the pulleys. And to install this one, of course this gets installed onto the rear derailleur hanger. Pay attention to this pin. What I would suggest to do is start to screw it in, and this is a 5mm hex key. So you screw it in. Before you tighten it up, just verify that your shifter goes up and down and then stops right against that one. Then you can tighten it. Tightening force here is supposed to be 8-10 Newton meters. Keep in mind that the cable is gonna stop right down here, and I'm gonna have that little cable end attached to the end of it. So that's pretty much the slack that I need. I just mark it here, and ideally this should have been done before I push the cable through. It's not a big deal, I can do it now as well. I'm just gonna push this in, and it's fairly simple. If you measure the distance here, make sure you leave at least this much slack up front. You pull at least this much cable up front, and I pulled way more than what I showed you. And let's trim this down. Alright, this end is very important to check it, make sure it remains around. So I'm just gonna push it a bit. It looks nice. Alright, now time to push my cable back. The only way I could do it, if you leave it attached to the end of the housing here, which is normally, that's the way it's normally done when you have a new cable, but it's just, it doesn't work. The cable stops right there. So what I had to do, I had to look into the cable end and just look for the light, and that's why I managed to push the cable through. It was actually fairly simple. Before I even attach the cable, I gotta make sure that my top pulley, my guide pulley up here, or jockey, I have to make sure it is aligned with my 11 teeth cog right here. This is what's marked on the mech as high gear, or H. So again, no cable whatsoever, and this would be the 10th gear. I'm just gonna make sure that my stop allows the top pulley here to be aligned with the first. the first gear. Now, the movement through the movement of the shifter or the Mac, this is gonna get all the way to my first gear. And again, looking at my other screw right here, which is the low gear, I'm gonna have to make sure that this allows the Mac to go all the way to my first gear. Right now it doesn't. I have to loosen this up a bit. Almost there. This is it. Perfect. With my two limit screws adjusted, and I'm talking about high gear, low gear, now the only one to play with would be this one, which is the B screw adjuster. This one adjusts the distance between the guide pulley, the top one, or the top jockey, and the first gear up here when I am in the first gear. It's easier to adjust this one once you have the cable through, but an easy check would be if you push your mech all the way. This is an Allen key, a 6mm. For the Shadow Plus, it has to be somewhere between 5 and 8mm. So if I put this one right here, I can see now I have probably about 8mm already. I'm not gonna mess around much with it right now. Maybe I'm gonna just tighten it a bit. So if you tighten it, you actually go further away from the cogs. If you loosen it up, it allows it to go further down. Go up front and make sure that your shifter is in the first gear. Just take out all the slack from the cable. Don't tighten it too much. Before we tighten that up, this little barrel adjuster is what lets you play with the outer housing tension afterwards. Right now it's fully turned in. Just turn it out about 2 turns just to give you a little bit of adjustment play afterwards. So now I'm good to just pull on the cable slightly. Just make sure you take out all the slack and just tighten this bolt. I usually leave about 1.5 inches. Here we go. And the other thing you want to install, and I bought these ones off of eBay, is just cable end or rolls, just to make sure that the cable stays nice and tight and it doesn't fray. Here it is. Make sure it doesn't get into the spokes. It doesn't. Perfect. Okay, let's install the chain and the cranks. When it comes to square taper spindles here, many people are of the opinion that they have to be left dry or installed dry. I am of the opinion that if I put a bit of grease in here, the whole idea is that the crank arm is going to be squished onto the taper anyway, centering itself. So I end up with the metal on metal contact anyway. If I put a bit of grease here, it allows that to be smooth and allows me to tighten up the retaining bolt without wondering on whether I have friction somewhere in the middle. I just align it nicely. I already installed the other crank. You can see it now. And once I put it in, I just have to use my bolt here. This is a 14mm socket that I'm using here. And then what I have here is just a dust cap. A few things here about this narrow wide. Narrow wide, it's called like that because one tooth is narrow, the other one is wide. One is narrow, the other one is wide. It does provide better chain retention because if you look at the chain here, you can see that the distance between the plates is wider, narrower, wider, narrow. So you have to marry the two, make sure that you install it properly. If you don't, actually it's not even gonna go in because the teeth are too wide to fit in between the narrow plates here. When it comes to how long your chain should be, so I'm on the big cog on the back, and Let me fit my chain right here. Here it is. Okay, so that's tight. +1. I'm gonna leave it up to here. After shortening the chain, this is what I ended up with, and I'm gonna have an extra link here added by my Kmc Missing Link. Running the chain through the derailleur, you have this little tab here at the end of the cage, and you have the pin. You gotta keep in mind how you route this one. So it just goes over to the tension pulley. Then especially pay attention to when you route it, on which side of that pin you route your chain through. The chain doesn't have to rub against this pin. That's the golden rule. You don't have to rub, okay? Kmc Missing Link, it's made of 2 pieces. See them here? They just go into each other, just like this, okay? Now you attach one part to one end of the chain, attach the other end to this other end of the chain. You just push them through, passing where they're gonna be. That's why you have that wider hole, which is a bit enlarged further in. So you just push the 2 plates one against the other and then pull on it. Clear signs of your gears not being properly indexed. And here now, for example, the chain is touching the higher cog. That's what you hear right now. And I can see it here. If I'm looking in line, if I'm looking from the back, I can see how my guide pulley is just a bit too much inwards. A couple of turns just to tighten my barrel adjuster. Let's see how it is now. There we go, gone. So going to the smallest cog. These are the limit screws that we've started with. Going up, I can go up to 3 gears at once here. Nice. Largest cog, I still have a bit of slack here, which is great. Just a quick update here, a few rides in, and this is absolutely lovely. It's working very, very well. It shifts very smoothly. There's no chain slap, and my son absolutely loves it. So 1x10 for me, it's the way to go. And hope you found this useful, and I gave you some ideas on what other things to tinker with in the near future. So thanks for watching.